Nightmares usually fade when we wake up, but in 2024, some nightmares were terrifyingly real. These are 10 true scary stories that didn't just scare people, they kept them awake long after the night had passed. Our first story begins in Texas. A young couple had just welcomed their first child, a newborn they adored more than anything. At night, they placed him gently in the crib, turned on the baby monitor, and tried to rest. But just after midnight, the mother stirred awake. Not because the baby cried, but because she heard a man's voice whispering through the monitor. "Don't worry, I'll keep him safe." Her heart nearly stopped. She rushed to the crib. The baby was sound asleep. Yet the voice continued, soft, calm, and horrifying. When they unplugged the monitor, the whispers didn't stop. It wasn't until the batteries died that the house fell silent again. Later, investigators revealed something chilling. Their Wi-Fi camera had been hacked, and whoever did it had been watching their baby for weeks. But if that chills your spine, imagine being alone on a deserted road. Our second story takes us to India, where a delivery driver was making his rounds late at night. The road was empty, dark, and quiet until he saw a woman standing by the highway, waving frantically for help. Thinking she was in danger, he slowed his truck. His headlights finally illuminated her, and in that instant, she vanished. Heart pounding, he pressed the gas, desperate to escape. But just a mile ahead, she appeared again, standing in the middle of the road. The locals later told him a horrifying truth. Years ago, a woman had been struck and killed in that very spot. And drivers who pass at night still see her, forever trapped in the moment of her death. Our third story might be the most unsettling of all, because it's not supernatural, it's human. In Japan, a college student rented a tiny apartment, perfect for her studies. But every night, she heard faint knocking from her closet. At first, she brushed it off as pipes or rats. But one day, while cleaning, she noticed the floor beneath the closet sounded hollow. She called maintenance. Workers pried open the floor, and what they found froze her blood. A hidden crawl space. Inside, food wrappers, blankets, and a thin mattress. Someone had been living beneath her apartment, watching her through cracks in the wall, waiting. In Brazil, grief turned to terror. Just hours after burying his grandmother, a man's phone rang. The caller ID showed her number. Shaking, he answered. A faint, trembling voice whispered, "Don't cry, I'm okay." The line went dead. When he checked later, her phone was still buried with her. The call log was real. The phone itself never recovered. In Poland, a taxi driver picked up a quiet man on a cold night. The passenger gave him an address, and the ride began in silence. But halfway through, the driver realized something was wrong. The man was gone. No door had opened, no sound, just gone. He stopped at the address anyway. The family who answered went pale when he asked for the man. Their son, they said, had died in a car crash 2 years earlier, on that very road. Now picture this: 2 hikers in the Canadian wilderness, camping beneath the stars. Around midnight, they woke to blood-curdling screams. They thought someone was in danger. Grabbing a flashlight, they searched. But the screams moved, circling them, closing in, louder, closer, then silence. The next morning, they found deep claw marks in the trees surrounding their tent. Experts later told them it wasn't human at all. It was a predator mimicking human screams to lure them out. Across the ocean in the UK, a teenage girl returned from a shower. The bathroom mirror was fogged as usual, but this time written across the glass were the words, "I missed you." Terrified, she called the police. The house was empty, no forced entry. Weeks later, it happened again, this time with her name written on the glass, and she lived alone. Some stories defy all logic, like in Russia, where a group of travelers stumbled upon a small, lively village. Music filled the air. Warm meals were shared. The villagers laughed and welcomed them like family. The next day, they returned to say thank you, but the village was gone. No houses, no road, no sign that anyone had ever lived there. And the photos they had taken that night, every single one was blank. In Dubai, a businessman was alone in his hotel room when loud knocks shook his door. Looking through the peephole, he saw a woman in white. Her face was hidden. He called security, but when they checked the hallway cameras, they saw nothing. Relieved, he tried to sleep. But at 3 a.m. he heard soft footsteps. Nervously, he looked again. This time she was pressed against the peephole, staring back at him. And then there was one story where horror gave way to hope. In Pakistan, a little girl woke her parents, crying that she had seen a man with fire in his eyes standing at their front door. The father found nothing, but feeling unsettled, he gathered the family in prayer. Only moments later, a powerful gas explosion tore through the neighbor's house. Firefighters later revealed if the leak had spread, the blast would have reached them too. They believe the little girl's vision and their prayer saved their lives. These were the 10 true scary stories of 2024. Some supernatural, some tragically real, all unforgettable. They remind us that fear doesn't only live in our imagination, it walks beside us, sometimes silent, sometimes screaming, sometimes hiding where we least expect it. But they also remind us of something else, that even in our darkest hours, hope and faith are stronger than any shadow. So tonight, as you turn off the lights, ask yourself which is scarier, that these stories happen to strangers far away, or that they could happen to anyone, even you.